Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here this evening, and we're so excited to be um, talking to you, meeting all of you here. I have really few slides. I would like to make this as more interactive, and here this event is built for you, and we would like to love to learn from you the challenges that we have and how we, as part of the technology team, that we can address and possibly find some awesome solutions for it. So before I pass it on the real session to the technology team that really built this platform, is as part of we learning from different industries and different in geographies around. So we gather some stats around. So we'd love to show you and get to know your inputs, and looking forward to speak to you, most of you, and learn from you. So this event is for you, but I'm going to turn around and show you some of the stats, and we'll go from there. Please kickstart this presentation tonight. So again, this is the U.S. data. Roughly, this is as of 2018. We have 3.1 million people in the U.S. employed by the staffing companies. That's a staggering number. This is the largest staffing market across the globe. And we also see who are the other second, third, fourth, fifth countries that have the largest staffing market opportunity for all of us that I think have an interest in knowing. And this is the second slide I was talking about. As you see it, 27% of the world market share in staffing is from US. But a very less likely candidate is Japan, is 14%. But I think the challenge is the bilingual, is Japanese market. But outside that, US, we see a lot of market share with the UK and Australia together. It's the largest market. UK is a 12. Half of UK's market is Australia. They're all English-speaking countries. Most of those, the staffing life cycle applies the same as US. So if you have a strong presence in the US, and I think those are two immediate markets that have a great possibility for the staffing market. And you see the other countries too. And if you just look at the US, GDP is growing at 2.2%, and is almost 150% growth on the staffing market. So you see that the staffing market, growth of staffing market in the US is 1.5 times bigger than the growth of the GDP of the US itself. So the size of the market and the growth of 3.8% those are the staggering numbers. You would say that's why US is continuing to lead that staffing market. And if you look at this chart, I think it's around 2015, mid-2015, the chart crossed between the available jobs to the hires. So around the mid of 2015, there are more openings than and then available candidates in the market. So that means we have more challenge in finding the great talent for our clients, and that gives the indication that it's just getting harder and harder to find the great talent that's available in the market today, just because there are more openings than the candidates available. And I want to give you some more interesting data today. So if you look into that, where's the demand, what percentage of the market share that's highest demand come from? It's still engineering, IT, scientific that has 26% of the growth demand market. And the next is the industrial, which is light industrial engineering, light industrial kind of the job openings that's available in the market today. But the healthcare market is the fastest growing market in the US. But still, by looking at the IT, engineering, industrial, light industrial covers more than 50% of the consulting market. And this is where, because if you roll back to the slide we saw, the demand for finding a great talent is just getting tougher and tighter. And if the staffing firms without ATS, probably 5-10 years ago, you can still do it. but at the current scenarios, the demand for the talent, it's almost impossible to maintain the growth and have the larger growth because of the competition. So if the firm has ATS-enabled search, that has a fairly good chance. But if you have done with AI-enabled platforms like Ceipal, I think you would see why that makes a big difference. And SIS states that if you have a client with MSP-driven client base, which is at 67% of the Fortune 500 customers have MSP-driven, and there's basically roughly, if you have a job that you have a qualified resume in 4 hours, you have a chance of getting placed. The candidate is a lot higher, and it dramatically reduces if it's more than 4 hours. So that's, again, demands why AI-driven capability of ATS is required, just because you could be, before your competition gets into those openings be submitted by the. And this is the 2019 report. Basically, if you see the staffing business impact, and temporary placements will continue to rise, 2019 and beyond. So the C2C, corp-to-corp requirements and temporary staffing requirements will continue to go up. And the biggest challenge that the staffing companies struggle today with is maintaining the operating budget at a level that you can compete with the global markets. The technology investments, you see the trend is 54% of the staffing companies are getting involved or looking into investment in technologies so that they can be at competitive edge with their competition. So that you can see those top 3 players. This is one interesting slide. I just want to put it, I just put this slide in the last minute. Predominantly staffing companies are growing organically, and very less percentage of the staffing companies' growth happens through M&As, mergers and acquisitions. So the growth is 80% of the companies are growing organically. Basically, they're finding ways to grow, either acquiring new clients or increasing the footprint with the existing client base. And when that kind of a percentage of the growth coming from through organically, that means then you have a tighter job pool available, the tighter candidate pool available, and if you're not equipped with the strong technology stack, and the growth actually comes into at a cost where it's hard to compete with it. So, and again, I think there's another indicator why you saw 54% of the firms are planning on reinvesting and making an investment in technology so that they can stay relevant in the market. And what are the top priorities today for staffing firms that we have? We all know, I mean, I don't have to share this data, but I think you all know that sourcing candidate acquisition or candidate sourcing is the biggest challenge today in the market, which is continue to be the dominant concern or opportunity, or whatever you call it as a concern, just because if you don't have the process and technology that are available in the firm, that's the biggest concern. But if you have a technology stack, then you're competing with other global players in the market. But there's also a great opportunity for it, because if you've equipped with the right technology, then there's a huge opportunity for staffing companies to grow. Again, you see the 80% of the firms grow organically. So, and this is another area I think it's good to keep an attention to this, because sourcing is the biggest concern and biggest opportunity for staffing companies. I think it's pretty much the same slide. I'm going to go back here, and who are we talking to today? The workforce today, most of them are millennials. And if you see this slide, you have seen this slide 10 years ago, that would probably be in 10, 20%. But today we're talking about almost 45% of the current workforce are millennials. And then you see Generation G getting into the workforce. While that's the blue graph continue to rise and the orange one, these two will continue to go down. So that means the habits of millennials and Generation Z is different than the previous generations. They are the ones who don't want to talk over the phone. They are the ones who wants to text it, who wants to, all the communication wants to happen in text or WhatsApp or SMS kind of messaging. So do you have a technology stack that equipped to do those kind of things so that you have better communications with your young millennial talent that's working for you, can be more productive? So that's another thing that need to look into. That the technology upgrade into those areas are very relevant, very important as we move forward. So there's another challenge too. So employers must accelerate. So the pay increase is going to be constant. So it's a really going in a two different angle, right? One side we have a tighter competition, tougher a candidate pool availability. In other side, there's their expectation of the pay increase is constantly increasing it. So what happens in both directions, the bottom line profits of the businesses is continue to dry down. So how do we handle that? Again, operational efficiency is the one way to keep up the profits or even go up, and those things, because so that you can reduce your operational profits, you can maintain the profitability of the business. Again, the tech is going to play a major role in this in this tighter market. So that's why we talk a lot about AI. We talk and our tech team spends a lot of time and energy and investments in bringing new technologies. It could be deep automation. It could be artificial intelligence. And then how do we have these algorithms actually can self-learn, can do some of the functions or predict some of the functions, can just make it better. So what happens is when we make these deep automations, I think there's a general perception in the market today that automation is less human, but actually that's really the other way around, because of a lot of the repetitive mundane tasks can be repeated, so that recruiters actually can spend more time with the candidates and increase the candidate engagement that translate into a business for the staffing firms. So that's what we were focusing on. What are the areas that we can really automate and can help staffing firms and their recruiters and the hiring managers and the management can be stay relevant and be more profitable in the space. So if you look back what I was telling you about the millennial and Generation G, if you look into that, 69% of staffing firms indicate texting is the fastest growing communication channel, because the industry realized their large workforce are millennials and the Generation G, and that's the only way they could faster communication and probably more productive in engaging those talent in the market in your industry. So that's what industry talks about. And 30% increase in closure rate with effective communication skills. I mean, that's very surprising stat when we learned from the industry, saying that having these solid tools as part of your ATS system, it increased tremendous 30% improve in business and the candidate experience too. So I think this is something that we cannot ignore anymore. I think this is something that every one of the staffing firms need to take a relook into it, what you have, how you have. Maybe you have an ATS, you're not paying attention to it, but those are things that really need to pay attention so that you can make the maximum out of the features out there that you can make it used to improve your productivity and stay more profitable. And the chatbots too, another one. And again, there are many ways to do it, many ways to automate it. Then you give more time to the recruiter to spend time with the candidate. And the candidate engagement is the biggest thing in the market today, because people think, okay, spend more time in sourcing, spend more time in searching and finding and submitting the profiles than actually talking to the candidates. Really, okay, I have this job, are you available? And the candidate said yes, and boom, that's it, and they come back and just submit the job, and done with it, and the customer, set up for an interview and actually talk to the candidate. Maybe that candidate may not be a good fit at this time, but if you have more time in dealing and talking to the candidate, maybe that candidate can come back and be interested in other job. Or maybe the candidate has somebody else can refer to you, hey, you know what, I had a great experience working with this firm, I think you should really look into it and working with this firm. So that's an opportunity. Those are things that's very intangible. We can't calculate, but it can't ignore too. So I actually want to come back. Let me look into this. This is a very interesting stat, come from LinkedIn. It's a very staggering stat. I mean, you need to look into that. So if you look at the whole candidate pool, we call candidate universe, there are 60 to 70% of them are passive candidates. The candidates that have a great job, they're full-time, and they love it, and they don't want to change it. And that's the almost 60-70% of the passive candidates. So they're not looking for jobs. They're not your candidates. Then the semi-active job seeker said, okay, they have a good job, but they're not very happy with it, so they may look for a change if there is a right opportunity for them. And there's another last spectrum as the active job seeker. They are currently in the market looking for a job change. So how do we address this? This is a huge pool, right? We most of the time, we look into that 5 to 10% of the pool out there in the market, but who are actively job seeking, which is understandably no, because they are in the market. So if you have the right job, you could match them, you can bring them on board. It's an easy one, right? But how about this 90% of the market pool that may be a great candidates, they may be tough to find jobs out there that you're not even making an attempt to do that. So we dig into this, how do we address these two things? At Ceipal team has done an enormous amount of time. I think I take a lot of credit because they do all the stuff. I just come and talk about it. But I got to show this, that the team has done the phenomenal work in actually looking into the holistically as a big market, and we're really genuinely trying to see how we can solve this big market problem and create these opportunities for customers of Ceipal. So if you look into the actual job seekers, so look into this, right? You have the paid portals. So like TechFix, Dice, Monster, ZipRecruiter. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I could put all of them. Just gives few job portals. And then everyone has a company career pages, then different sources they can, the people can apply jobs. And then obviously referrals come from, the referrals is the biggest one. Believe it or not, the staffing industry has over a quarter of their hires come from referrals. If you have a good referral program internally. And then you have free portals like Ladders, Indeed. Not really free, but I think at least you can find candidates. They give you some freemiums, and then you can try it out. So this is where your active job seekers you can find. And then obviously you can apply AI for those, and because your pool is just 10%, 5 to 10%. On top of that, and if you don't have tools like AI that gives you data and personas and people in a fraction of a minute, then you're missing a big thing. So you already have such a short pool. And there is, we're talking about the 90%, candidates who are not looking for jobs. They're passive candidates. Somebody's a semi-passive candidates, right? So where do you find these people? And we look into that. Where do we find these people, right? They're in LinkedIn. LinkedIn has 640 million LinkedIn candidates across the globe who are possibly not looking for jobs. Not all, but I wouldn't say everyone. Maybe there are people put like 5, maybe 2, 3, 5% said, okay, I'm looking for job opportunities. But 95% of them, they're not looking for jobs. But you have a lot of data over there. And then there's called AngelList. And it's GitHub. You all probably know about it. These are all tech platforms. They're very specific candidates. You can find those people, right? And then you just simply Google search them. Then Stack Overflow too. There are a lot of tech engineering guys you can find in Stack Overflow. And there are a lot of many user groups like SAP user group, and you have Salesforce user groups, and and they are regionally, are different regions. Like I know you have India-based, US-based, you have Northeast. There are so many out there, hundreds and hundreds of user groups, right? So how do we, and the people out there, there's information out, it's a public information. You just go Google it, but do we have time to go through each of these sites and search who are the people have the similar experience and see if we can talk to them, though they're not passive candidates, but they may be interested to it, right? So what we try to do is we try to build an algorithm to curate the information from these sources and see if we can just put together a persona of a candidate and then give it to you. Maybe you can reach out, hey, I have this job, would you be interested in it? They're not job seekers, but at least out there. So we made that attempt, and I'm going to show you. I think it's just an interesting, the technology we're bringing in sometime very soon, and maybe in a 2 to 3 months time frame. So we partner with, I'll come back to that. So I talk about this, right? The left side, the first one is the GitHub, Overflows, LinkedIn. This is all the passive, semi-passive candidates. And then we built a passive candidate enrichment algorithm with AI. What actually it does, it goes to these platforms, the public domains, public information available. So instead of somebody going in person, searching, our algorithm actually goes into these, to these platforms. And let's say you have a job description for, I would just pick a business analyst or maybe a Java programmer. Or whatever it is, that doesn't matter, right? And the job description has a keywords. So the algorithm takes that into those split the job into keywords, and then took those keywords, and this algorithm actually go back to these public portals and look for the data that's out there, who is going to match those keywords, and pulls the candidates, the information, and go to the LinkedIn and actually find out, is this candidate that he's, have the information in GitHub or Stack Overflow talking about, their projects in Java and all of that information, a map with the LinkedIn and give you, hey, I think I found this guy in LinkedIn, and here is the LinkedIn, link to the LinkedIn profile. And also, based on the information in the LinkedIn, we also built this persona matching patented algorithm. It's actually have a US patent for that algorithm. And that algorithm basically looks into, okay, is this person is a good fit for this job, or what are the other qualities we have it? And we give that information in this format. You want to see it? That's how we get it. So this is a passive candidate. You get the list of saying, okay, the overall score based on the public information available gives the overall score, and it also talks about the cultural alignment and the technical alignment. So two things, right? Technical alignment is basically you have, based on all the information, how good are you in technically, and if there are any, based on the information that's provided. So we call it ONET database, has a lot of, it's a public database created by the United States government. So we use the ONET database, find what are the characteristics of such a candidate that generally you expect in the market. And we pull the information or generate that one-page report about the candidate. And also you have a LinkedIn profile. But, you all know that LinkedIn is a public data. You can just go search on anybody's name. But LinkedIn does not give you any other information. So it's just a public information. We give you a link to it. If you have subscribed to the emails or you have email credits, you can reach out to the candidate and saying, okay, we have this job, would you be interested in it? But to get to this list from the public domain is a Herculean task. But this is what our algorithm do it. But we just take the public information out there and curate the list and give it to you. Hey, these are possible candidates. Maybe available for you, but this is a good fit based on what we found this information. I'm not saying it's probably 100% accurate, but fairly good accurate information that we could at least rely on it, give you like top 10 candidates. Those are passive, they're not looking for a job, but at least you can reach out. But we also found this a data point. So if you for LinkedIn, right? If you write the email like emails of 100 people, there is a data saying that 18% of them respond to you. So 18% response rate. Not necessarily they're saying that, okay, I'm available. Somebody says, hey, I'm not available. Somebody says, I'm not interested. Maybe somebody saying, okay, it's interesting. I want to find more. So we found out that what are the possibility of the candidates might be interested to actually even speak to you, about 6 to 7% of them. So if you send 100 emails, you would probably 6 to 7% of candidates might be interested to look into the job. So imagine if you have a 300, 400 million candidates out there of 7%, it's a huge pool of candidates that might be a potential candidate for you. But these are the areas I think you can make a big difference because your competition is not doing this stuff. And if you, being a Ceipal customer, I think we're going to I want to be a disclaimer here. This is not going to be a free service. We're going to pay. This is going to be a paid service because we spend a lot of money, effort, time, and infrastructure to curate this kind of data. But this is going to be the game changer, and this is what we were investing as a Ceipal as a technology platform. And for this, I wanted to introduce my friend whom we partner, we work together, is Ganesh. He's the founder of Dot-In. He and I, we both, Ceipal and Dot-In, work together in creating this awesome piece of technology together. Ganesh, can you stand up? Thank you. And I think this is going to be the game changer because we open up, like I was just saying, if you have 100 million candidates access, 6 to 7%, we're talking about 600, 700,000 candidates of possible candidates for you to open up the doors for you. I'm sorry, 6 million, 100 million, so 6 to 7 million candidates out there could be possible candidates for you to open. But there's an effort, they're not looking for jobs, so you had to make an effort to do that. But the curation of this data is a Herculean task, and I think our algorithm is going to do that. And we are possibly going to bring this technology to Ceipal platform by end of February or March of 2020. And what do you find in this report? You can find the overall score of the candidate, what's the fitment of these candidates into technically and other things, under top learning styles, incentives, and also we found this could be, if you are a full-time placement, this is the holy grail for us. But if you're a temp placement, it's great because you still have the information that's out there that otherwise you would not be able to get to it. And I think, our team, I don't want to steal our team's time. We're going to, we built, apart from these awesome features we built into, we also built, continuing to do the e-immigration, public access files. I have no idea about this stuff. Samar is going to talk about it. A business intelligence platform was built. Amar has some information to do that. And I think the managed resume harvesting. I think there are other competitors out there, but I think Ceipal team has built something in a completely no-touch resume harvesting. So I think you don't have to do anything. You just have to subscribe. They enable the link, and you are all set to do for your resume, harvesting your resumes. I think that's all I have it. But I hope this information is helpful. We'll be around. We can ask more questions. But that's all I have it for tonight. Thanks so much.